Appreciate all of you taking out of your busy schedule to come and visit with us. As you know, Congress is not in D.C. right now. We are here in our districts all around the country. So the 535 duly elected members of Congress, including 100 in the Senate, are home. And the purpose of us being here is to be doing what we're doing today. Shame on any that are not meeting with their constituents. Not listening to their concerns and answering their questions and explaining to them some of the things that sometimes you don't hear about. This is, we've done about 32, I think, town hall meetings in the 31 months that we have been privileged to be representing you. And so part of our commitment to you is just an ongoing conversation and to listen. And to be a part of representing you in the best way possible. I want to thank Chipola College for allowing us to be here. Thank you so much. Royce, I want to thank you for your willingness to be a part of today's meeting. And I just want to say how much it means to me that you're here. I do want to allude to some of the things that we've done that I just kind of want to give you an attaboy on. I mean, this morning we took a couple hours and we toured the hospital, and we were able to see some of the incredible things that you have going on in your hospital. And it has been several years since I have been there, so I had not seen the remodeling and the things that are going on there. And I'm just telling you, it was amazing. So I want to commend you on. And I was met at the front with the pink ladies, and they were there to welcome me with a grand smile, and just they're doing some very, very good work. We also went over and visited the new Walmart, and we met with their employees, and we saw what they're doing. I learned something that I did not know, that we learned about the program they have to employ veterans returning back from war. And they have some 100,000 associates through their organization that I was not aware of. Also not aware of what they are doing through donating food to Second Harvest to care for the poor. So it was an eye-opening experience, and I was able to learn about what they do. So you've got some good things going on and happening in Jackson County, and of course this institution is good. Are we okay? Just want to make sure. Okay. There's a lot of people that film me today because they're itching for me to make a mistake, so I just want to make sure that they've got me in focus. So coming to a TV set near you in the coming months. But I want to say that today I want to give you just a brief synopsis of what's going on, of what's happening in D.C. Some you know about, some you may not know about. And then I want to hear from you. Now what we're going to do is, Royce is going to be our moderator today, so he's going to actually pull, hopefully all of you filled out questions that you would like to ask, and we're going to go through and answer as many of those as we possibly can before we head out. Just to let you know, we've got engagements through the evening. We're going to spend the night in Tallahassee tonight. We're going to do our town hall meeting in Leon County tomorrow to just continue that promise that we're going to listen and continue our conversation. But let me just kind of give you an idea of what's going on. As you know, you've seen a lot of things on television, and no matter whether you are more interested in the way that the stories of Washington, D.C. are portrayed through an MSNBC or a CNN or even a Fox television station, no matter what station you're watching, you're hearing a lot of things about what's going on in Washington, D.C. I will tell you this, I relish the opportunity to speak directly with you and tell you from someone who is there, usually at the beginning of the week to the end of the week, what we're doing, what's been on our schedule, and the things that we're talking about. And also, as we go forward, to hear your input on what you would like for me to do as your representative. In the last few months, you've heard of a lot of talk and legislation that has passed the Senate, in particular, regarding immigration. I think every American recognizes the fact that there needs to be improvements in immigration. Currently, and I was down at the border, by the way, in April to see our border and to see the challenges that, in my opinion, are just really not being addressed at the border like I think our Constitution calls for us to address. There are challenges when it comes to individuals who are working and are providing part of our labor force. We know that we have individuals that support, in particular in the ag industry. So our farmers depend on a workforce. We know that. We also know that we have other paying jobs that that we need to verify that someone is we know who they are. We're collecting the taxes, and so you're going to hear people talk about E-Verify, and you're hearing about trying to reform our legal immigration naturalization and how that's broke, and it's expensive and it's laborious and it's a challenge. So you're hearing a lot about immigration. Now you're aware of the Senate bill that was passed in the Senate. Many of you have heard the term Gang of Eight and the work product that they produced in the Senate. And that, we're a bicameral house. So the Senate has their version, and that's their prerogative, that's their responsibility. But equally as important is the opinion of the House of Representatives. It is not our responsibility to take up the Senate bill. It is our responsibility to weigh in and to have our own opinion.
Amen.
So that's the way our government works. And I'll be honest with you, I think that is the way our government works best. We are not there to be concerned about the other chamber, nor are they there to be concerned about our chamber. We are there to act independently. I will tell you this: I'm a little partial to the House of Representatives, and the reason being is because we are the people's house. We are the house. We are the members that are closest to the people, and our founding fathers wanted it to be that way because they wanted us to ensure that we heard from you. And in order to do that, they created a process by which we run every 2 years. So that we've got to be coming through Jackson County on a regular basis because we're always in election mode. And you're aware of that. And that presents a lot of challenges. It presents a lot of political campaigns. It produces, it produces a lot of chaos. But in the end, it does mandate that those who represent you know you and be with you. And so that's positive. So we will weigh in on the immigration issue. Our efforts are going to be different. Our efforts are going to be very different. It's going to have different bills that will come out of different committees to address different issues. But the very first thing that I think you're going to find in the House of Representatives is we will squarely come out and demand that we secure our borders. I think if you look at the responsibility of Congress, as clearly outlined in our Constitution, security is one of the responsibilities that Congress has. And when we have people that are in our country, it is our responsibility to know who they are, where they are, and what they're doing, if we are going to fulfill our responsibility of providing for the security of our country. Ironically, when I was there in April down in Texas, I learned that of the people that were coming across the border, that only 20% of those individuals were coming from Mexico. That the majority of those individuals, 8 out of 10, were coming from parts all over the world. And I saw film and I saw things that showed Chinese, that showed Europeans, that showed other individuals from farther south and in South America, and at all points in between. So it's not an issue that just relates to the United States and our southern neighbor, Mexico. There are people coming from all over the world, but we have a responsibility to know who they are, where they're going, what they're doing while they're here. That's fair, I believe. Immigration is something that I'm sure you have some questions on. You also heard a lot about the Farm Bill. So it's something that I was very much involved in. So let me address my involvement in the Farm Bill. And let me tell you, let me delve into that a little bit, because I want you to know what we did, how we did it, why we did it, and at the same time, because it concerns you. You're a rural county. Of the 14 counties that make up Florida's 2nd Congressional District, 12 are rural. So 12 are rural counties with small governments and small communities, small cities that are affected in a major way by the Farm Bill. Now, the Farm Bill, as you know, is a big bill. It's typically a 5-year authorization bill, and there's been a lot of people that are surprised to learn, perhaps many of you in this room, that the United States Department of Agriculture deals with not just the farm policy that deal with farmers, but they also deal with 80% of the Farm Bill, which consists of the SNAP program. Now, the SNAP program is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, so otherwise known as food stamps. So 80% of the Farm Bill is the SNAP program, is food stamps. So one could say that it is not as much a Farm Bill as it is a SNAP bill. I think that's fair when it's an 80-20 split. And I see some of you nodding your heads that common sense says when it's 80% one thing, it should be named that. I believe that, and in this body it's very difficult, but I believe in the validity of single subject matter. I like the fact that I would vote on a bill that addressed the issues in that bill that are primarily to be discussed, and that everything would be voted up or down based on its validity, not on other things that are not germane to that bill. I also believe that there is another department that deals with so many of our welfare programs, which is Health and Human Services, is far better to administer the food stamp program than the Agriculture Department. But again, in Washington, D.C., not everything is designed and not everything is performing there on an efficient manner. I know you find that hard to believe. But I think that it would be better suited for those who need those programs, for our farmers to be able to work with the Department of Agriculture, and for those who are, I would say, vulnerable in our society. And a marquee part of this country is that we have always cared for the vulnerable in their periods of transition, and sometimes in that vulnerability state from life until death. So when you're talking about children, and you're talking about disabled, and you're talking about the elderly, they will be in those programs perhaps longer than others. So I think that Health and Human Services is the right department to administer food stamps. So in the Farm Bill, we, as traditionally done, the Senate voted their version, and the House voted our version. There was a very controversial, it turned out to be very controversial. I don't think you're going to find it as controversial as the parties did in D.C. I submitted, after working for 1 year with 17 different states, Health and Human Services secretaries, and listening to what they were asking us for, since the states are the ones who deliver and maintain and oversee the SNAP programs. I sponsored an amendment that dealt with able-bodied individuals. Now, I didn't say children, and I didn't say disabled, and I didn't say seniors. Able-bodied individuals of working age, that they must be either working, training for work, looking for work, or volunteering in their community if they are going to be recipients of food stamps. Amen. Now, the statistics, based on polling, says that there's only about 18% of Americans who don't believe in that. And that 82% of America believes in what I just stated. Again, let me be crystal clear. I want to make sure you get this one. Focused, and the volume is set right. My amendment addressed able-bodied people who are mentally, physically, psychologically able to work, excluding children, excluding the disabled, excluding the seniors. And if they couldn't find a job, they could volunteer. And my goodness, this morning I met some of the greatest 80 and 90-year-old volunteers at your hospital, the little pink ladies, and they were there adding to the quality of service and making your community better. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Tallahassee at an awards dinner for elder care. Now, if you know anything about elder care in Tallahassee, you know that their primary function is to take food and deliver food to the needy. Now, let's define, or the vulnerable. And who were those people? Most were seniors. And it's done entirely by volunteers. So it is a government program to provide the food, but it's delivered to these individuals who are vulnerable and who need this by volunteers. So I was there the other night at an awards banquet. And I was there to give out and to hand out 40-year awards of service. 30 years of service. 20, 25, down to 10. But the two individuals that received the 40-plus years of service awards were all over 85 years of age. Now, I want to ask anyone in this room, if an 85-year-old precious, precious person, on days I'm sure didn't feel good, can utilize their blessings, such as their car or their gas, their time, on good days, bad days, arthritic days, and they can volunteer and deliver food to the needy. And that was one of the allowable uses in my amendment. You volunteer. And then if you do that, then we are going to make sure that you receive food stamps. Help me now. I'm serious. Is that unreasonable?
No.
That was about 82%. The point is, America, for the last 5 decades, has spent $15 trillion when Lyndon Johnson declared war on poverty. What we have done in this country, we have helped many, yes, but we have certainly not advanced our goal to rid poverty in this country. We have spent $15 trillion. There are more people by percentage, there are more people by numbers living in poverty today than were at the time he made that statement. But what Washington is doing, rather in these programs, is they are focusing on needs and issues that are fundable rather than solvable. And so when we fund programs, the goal is to spend the money so we can get more next year. And what is happening in many cases, not in all, but in many cases, is individuals are becoming dependent. And I'm not talking about the vulnerable. We are here to care for the vulnerable. We are here to care for the vulnerable. But I will say this, because that's been a hallmark of what we've done. But primarily, that is a responsibility in many ways. I know our organization, Second Harvest, I see what they're doing with food. I see what our churches are doing. Listen, no one provides better food distribution in this district to the hungry than our churches. And that's it. You know what? According to the Scripture, that is the way it's supposed to be. However, we all pay our tax dollars to the federal government that has programs to help the vulnerable. So that amendment was added. That amendment was very hotly debated. And some would say, as some in the opposition party accused me of, that I purposely put that in there to kill the Farm Bill. That is just not true. That was not the purpose. The purpose was a solution to a problem that America has needed for an awful long time. And that if 85 and 90-year-old individuals can be a part of moving America forward through their volunteer service, certainly able-bodied individuals can do their part as well. Now, that's the Farm Bill. When we get back, as a result of that Farm Bill going down, our Farm Bill in the House was split. We then tried another effort, and that is to split the Farm Bill. To say, you know what, the Farm Bill needs to be the Farm Bill, and the SNAP program needs to be the SNAP bill, or the food stamp bill, so that both can be passed, debated, passed, defeated, based on their own merit. Okay? The reforms are instituted based on the validity of the program. So before we came home a few weeks ago, we passed the farm portion of the Farm Bill. And when we return back to D.C., we will address the nutrition portion of the bill. And so it will be, I'm sure, be a spirited debate. But I think, and it should be, but it should not be clouded by other issues. We need to be talking specifically about the nutrition program. So that's the Farm Bill. Other things that are coming up when we return, and then we're going to get into questions. The other things that we're going to be talking about is going to be the budget. You know, our federal budget ends at September 30th. So you're going to hear talk about continuing resolution, and you're going to hear talk about budgets. So that's something that you will continue to hear as we move forward. And you will also hear the dreaded term, the debt ceiling. Because we will hit another debt ceiling. Some are saying in November of this year. So we will then go right back into debt ceiling debates. So there's a lot coming. And again, back to immigration, you will hear more and more about that. So that's kind of a snapshot of what we're doing and what is going on. And I don't want to monopolize the time. I want to hear the questions. So Royce, if we could now turn over to those, and I'm going to turn the mic back over to you.
Has anybody got any additional questions
that you want to put in here now? Steve, we got 35, so that means 1 minute answers, buddy. Robert Hargrove, I think.
Now, if the question, here's the thing: the question can't be an answer, can't be 1 minute, and the question is 5.
All right, here we go. I'll go to the last sentence. Will the House version of the Immigration Reform Bill have a provision for an increase in H-26 visas, whatever that is?
H-2B.
I knew that. I just wondered if you knew.
H-2B. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't. You see, that is not my committee of oversight. I know that the Judicial Committee, of which I have several friends that serve on, they are addressing this issue. So my good friend Trey Gowdy from South Carolina and Chairman Goodlatte from Virginia, they are delving into this issue. I will say this to Robert, that when we know, we will communicate that with you. So we want you to know specifically to H-2B and any increases or decreases to that. I'm on, by the way, I didn't tell this to you earlier, I'm on the Transportation Committee. And so we're dealing with water issues flowing down the ACF. That's our area, and I'd love for somebody to ask me about that. Also, we're dealing with things like transportation, ports, airports, and I also serve on natural resources. I'm extremely involved in the fisheries, and I was just more than pleased when recently, just a few weeks ago, the latest survey on the red snapper population showed what we knew.
We got plenty.
No, more than plenty. Almost 100% more than they claim. Okay, so anyway, those are my two committees.
What about visa reform? Homer Hurt wants to know about visa reform.
That's not a credit card, Roy.
Do what?
That's not a credit.
No. And I think, and let me say this.
I think you've answered the question.
Well, and I think that's coming out of the same committee. Yep. You know that we're, because here's what they're doing. The House budget will be very specific to their area. There will be the first thing we're doing. And our leadership has claimed this, and I want you to know I'm holding them accountable to this. The very first thing we're doing is we're addressing border security. You know, there's a 2006 Border Security Act that passed the Senate, passed the House, signed into law that is being ignored. So here's the issue. My dad, growing up, my dad said, you know what, take care of the things that I've already given you. take care of the little things, manage those well, and then, son, I'll give you more. So the issue is, let's take care of the laws that are on the books. And the 2006, that's not that long ago, the 2006 Border Security Act needs to be addressed. And so I think that in good faith, I think that the Department of Homeland Security has an opportunity to show America that they're serious about the constitutional responsibility of government. We don't have to debate it. No, we don't have to debate it. It's law. Get it done.
How can the IRS be allowed to opt out of the Affordable Care Act when they are to implement this program? How can I opt out? This is not okay.
Let me say this to you regarding the opt out. Look, the IRS obviously the IRS has created a lot of attention by both sides of the aisle. I think this issue is more bipartisan than people want to give credit to. I've listened to the questioning in oversight, the government and oversight committee. I've listened to the questions, and I have to tell you, my friends on the other side of the aisle have asked some very difficult questions to the IRS officials. So it's not just the Republicans asking probing questions. The Democrats have asked very fair, very probing questions in order to get to the truth. What the IRS has done and executed out of the Cincinnati, Ohio field office is wrong. Is wrong. They've admitted as much. The investigation now is to find out who was responsible. 2 weeks ago, in committee, it was learned that Washington, D.C., office of the IRS, directed Cincinnati to fulfill their prerogatives. But let me say this. You can't just say that's what it was. You have to prove that's what it was. And many people I find operate off emotion. And that's not proper process. Okay? If we were being accused of wrongdoing, we were being accused. In this country, you must prove beyond a reasonable doubt and be judged by a group of your peers. We have to fulfill the responsibility of proper investigation.
Unless you're Sheriff Finch.
And so therefore, what we have done, you'll find in government oversight, you will find also in judiciary, you will also find in the Ways and Means Committee, you will find in these committees, Democrats and Republicans asking the necessary questions to get to the truth. Slow, methodical, business-like, in a fair way, to protect everybody's integrity, those who are not guilty of anything, while at the same time finding who is responsible. So the IRS is look, when you talk about, how can the IRS be allowed to opt out of Affordable Care Act? Well, first of all, IRS is given the responsibility to enact it. And I think right now their trust, or the trust the American people have in the IRS, is shaken. And so to say that we are ready to give them this massive responsibility that is responsible for 1/5 of the American economy, fifth or sixth, well, okay, that's a lot. That's a lot to ask for. So,
This one wasn't signed, but it's the same question.
Wait a minute, can we go back to that one? Because Steve, I don't think you really answered that because I have it right here. The IRS union is saying that they do not want the employees who work at the IRS to fall under the health care bill that the rest of
correct.
the runs on.
Right. Well, let me say this. No federal agencies, to my understanding, fall under those things. Except members of Congress and our staff. We go into the exchanges just like you do. No, listen.
Obama just said
no.
You guys don't have to.
That's not what he said.
All right.
No, you get 75%.
That's not what he said. That's not what he said. We go.
Let him answer the question.
They're two different things. There's two different things. As you know,
Enlighten us then.
I'm trying to, if you give me an opportunity. I'm going to do this. So here's what I'm asking. Here's what I'm saying. We go into the exchanges. But going into the exchanges and getting the federal government to pay a portion of the premiums are two different things. Do you understand that?
Yes, I'm not an idiot.
I didn't claim that. So don't accuse me of that. What I'm saying is that we go into the exchanges. Our employees go into the exchanges. But the federal employees, the IRS, the EPA, NOAA, the Department of Ag, and all the employees that work in the executive branch, they do not go into the exchanges. But I do not know what my insurance is going to be, nor do you, because we know we can't keep our insurance policy that we have if we like it. I don't have that certainty. So the issue is not whether I'm going into the exchanges or not, because I am. And the issue is not that the IRS is going into the exchanges, because they're not. The issue is that you brought up, and sir, I think you nodded to, is that portion that the federal government will pay as a percentage of the premium. That's the issue. The issue is not us going into the exchanges. We are going into the exchanges.
It's like 75%, right?
That premium, which is equivalent to what businesses in this country pay today for their employees. Now, I know, I don't know what kind of health insurance program you have here at the college, or do we? Blue Cross Blue Shield. May I inquire, ballpark, the percentage of premiums that are paid by the college and by the individual?
For the employee, we pay 100%. For the employee's family, they pay that.
Okay.
Or spouse.
And let me say this. Many businesses in this country, okay, especially the larger employers, many of those companies pay, and I think mandated by state law, pay that's, and I think around 70%. Some are more generous and pay the 100%, obviously, like Chipola's doing. But you have the option to provide health insurance benefits for the family. So what's the challenge is? The challenge is that the exchanges are not ready. The president has admitted the exchanges are not ready. Senator Baucus has claimed, as the designer of the health care bill, that it is a train wreck because the exchanges aren't ready. And by the way, because they're not ready, and because Senator Baucus claims that it's a train wreck, he then announced a week later he was resigning.
I wonder why.
That's like the pilot of the plane hopping out the window with the only parachute and saying, "Oh, good luck, guys, landing this thing." So the issue is, and I believe strongly, that the president should, in a couple weeks ago when he claimed to delay the implementation of the health care bill for 1 year, and that applies to corporations, that should all, if it's not ready for the corporations and their employees and their families, it is not ready for the individuals of this company either, of this country either. So therefore the delay of 1 year should apply to the entire program and to all 308 million Americans that depend upon health care. So that's the issue.
Can't change legislation though, that's not legal.
That's right.
No, I agree. And let me say this, and I want to be crystal clear because I've had, we get feedback on into our office. I've been there 31 months. I didn't vote for the health care bill. I wasn't there. That happened in the 110th Congress. The 111th Congress, and my first Congress was the 112th. So I haven't been there. Now, I have voted many times to repeal. And there's several of those votes, okay, as many as people say, well, you're wasting time and wasting time. Of the 9 votes to repeal portions of the health care bill, 7 have been signed into law by the President of the United States. So it hasn't just been an action of futility. we have gone in and we have taken out things that aren't good. And so all of those, but I do not believe in the bill. And so, but as it relates to employees in the IRS, and sir, I want to apologize, but I know that I never, question your ability to understand concepts. And so,
Well, here's one. This is for Jackson County.
okay,
We've had the water wars up the between all the states, but this one is local here in Jackson County. South of Florida and Company wants to take a lot of water out of the ground in our county, and our farmers are concerned about competing for that. So the question is, our local farmers may be forced to compete for water with a farm that raises fish. How are we going to address that?
well, if as a clearly a local and a state issue, you've got to take in the I would say, even though this is not a federal issue, I would say that you have to take into consideration the unintended consequences of what a single entity is doing. And you can't, just personally, I have 4 children, and I can't say yes to one at the detriment of the other 3. I mean, I know that's common sense. So I don't.
What programs have we got coming? This is Dale Nizer. A program's coming to Jackson County for affordable housing. He's a man in our community who's concerned about that.
Well, look, our economy, and that's a bigger issue. But housing involves a lot of our economy, especially in Florida. I mean, you're talking contracting, you're talking about materials, supplies, you're talking about framers, you're talking about brick masons, you're talking about painters, you're talking about real estate agents, you're talking about surveyors, you're talking about financial institutions who actually do those loans. I mean, so so affordable housing, and I'm assuming who asked the question? I want to make sure that. Oh, okay. Okay. I guess yes, sir.
What his question was concerning that USDA will build 36 houses here. Not one house was lost by foreclosure. They're all owned by women built with sweat equity. There were nearly $15 million or more available for those programs. And they've cut it down to 2/3. So it hurts the rural community where we have people living very bad. Some even living in houses with no floor in. So that was the concern, is what was going to be your input and to make sure that these rural counties you represent.
Sure. It would be like similar to, I know the FHA, they have qualifications of financially distressed areas, okay, and that they can receive FHA lending programs to help in these economically stressed areas. So recently, in the last Congress, they changed the designations of some of my communities in our district. And I travel through those areas. I know those areas. I know those areas have not had any industry. They've not had any plants coming. They've not had, in other words, there's been no economic boost to these areas. So we called the USDA. We asked them to come to our office to meet with us, and we challenged their change of designation for these 2 areas particularly that were changed. And I'm pleased to report that we fought our argument in a very rational, very responsible way. We laid out the facts, and they agreed. And so now those areas are able to apply, those people that are applying for those homes, they're able to apply for the very low, they have to meet certain qualifications, clearly, but they're able to access some programs that will allow them into that more affordable housing. So I liken your question maybe similar to that. So we're happy, and I would say obligated, as your representative, to look at what you're saying. And I would say if you would, we've got our team here today to make sure that, and that's something we will look into for you. We will call their representatives and say, come to our office like you did last time. Let's look at this program. Let's look at what are the intended consequences, what are the unintended consequences, and let's look at it and make a determination that is fair and equitable for those involved. And so that's what we're here to do. So I would just say, if you do not mind, the gentleman, where's his question? If you could make sure that we, and this was Ronald, yeah, and he's got his phone number there. So yeah. So is that okay? Did I? Okay.
Elaine Thompson mentioned the border first, and you already answered that question. What should the positive GOP position be on health care after we repeal Obamacare? That's Alfred Watterson.
Well, let me look. We know this. We know that, and I'm going back to 2008, 2009, when the health care bill was debated and passed. We knew a couple things. We knew, number one, there were individuals in this country who had illnesses and had many pre-existing conditions that could not find affordable, quality, consistent health care. We knew that. We also knew that there were a lot of people unemployed because the unemployment numbers were rising. We were in the heart of a recession. And so we also knew that there were young people that had done everything right, that had studied hard, and that had successfully made it through high school and college. No small things to a lot of good parenting. And they had walked across the stage with a diploma only to find no gainful employment waiting for them. We knew that. But what we did, if the goal was to address those issues and to make sure that quality, affordable, accessible health care was in place for all Americans, that was the goal. If that was the goal, we messed up terribly. We weren't, I mean, if this was the goal, we're over here. Now, here's what here's what I'm saying. I do not believe we can attain the goal of quality, accessible, affordable health care by running doctors out of business. Now, if that's wrong, let me know. But the New England Journal of Medicine, I read an article a couple months ago that made this statement. By the year 2020, we will have a shortage of 92,500 physicians. Now, that's not my opinion. I read it. Read it from a medical journal based on estimates and projections. Now, I also know that the fastest growing segment of our population are seniors. And that 10,000 seniors a day are going into Social Security and Medicare. So we've got doctors over here going down. We've got patients and needs going up. I know that's a formula for disaster. Okay? I don't have to have a PhD to figure that out. That is not a good situation. Whereas I think, okay, to the heart of the question, what needs to be done, I think there were some things that could drastically improve the situation and getting closer to hit the target of affordable, accessible, quality health care for individuals if we would have done some common sense things. And you've heard all of these. You know these things. Okay? In other words, to create more options. There's one thing Americans love. We love options. No, we do. I know that when you get in your car and you drive down here at 6 o'clock in the evening and you say, we're going to start at the west end of Highway 90 and we're going to go all the way through Mariana, we're going to hang a right, we're going to go to I-10 and we're going to dinner and we're going to find a place that provides great service, fantastic quality, and they're fast. And you go down that road, you vote with your dollar. And you like options. And the chances are, if that's what you require, you're going to eat a good meal at an affordable price, great service, and you'll go back. That is the formula to produce better of anything. Now, that's not my law. That's the law of nature. That's the law of economics. So I think that if the goal was, as I stated, and what we've got now, and I've spent 3 hours at your hospital, we now have a system that is penalizing our healthcare providers. I want to be crystal clear, because you're going to hear this wrongly reported. I hope not. But I'm sure. I voted no for sequestration.
Tell us why. Why?
Because I stood in front of you, and I remember you served from many meetings. And I know that I promised I would not do anything to harm our seniors. Inside of sequestration was a $150 billion cut to Medicare. Also inside sequestration was 2% cuts across the board. Now, if you want to find lazy managers, find managers that implement 2% across the board cuts. That's not leadership. That's not making hard decisions. And my question to you would be, why would you only want to take and reduce a bad program by 2%? No, you wouldn't. You would say, this is a program that's not making the mark. This is a program that's not doing a good job. And we got a program over here that's full of people that are blowing and going, and they're doing a great job, and they're delivering quality service and value, and they need more. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these resources, and we're going to put over here. That is how you would make the decision. Across the board cuts, 2% were lazy. I said no. And most importantly is that bill undermined the very spirit of representation. Because it wanted me to take your voting card, 700,000 men and women of Florida's 2nd Congressional District, your voting card, and to give to a super committee of 12 people who got to Congress the same way you sent me. Why would I give them multiple cards to where they had multiple votes representing all of America? It undermined the spirit of true representation. And so at the end of the day, it was a clear no. I wasn't going to do that. And I would have violated many promises that I stood before this group and made in running. Now, I upset my own leadership. I've been there before. I'll be there again. Okay? But I did so in a respectful way, and I have a good relationship with them. But they know when I say no, I mean no. And they know when I say I'm thinking about it, I'm trying to get there, that I am thinking about it. I'm trying to get there. Or when I'm yes, I'm yes. And on that, it was a clear no. So...
You support $4 billion per year in subsidies to the oil companies when ExxonMobil and other oil companies are reporting profits at level never before experienced by any corporation.
Let me be very clear on subsidies. Nor do... What? Oh. Nor do I agree with subsidies to Intel companies like Microsoft and Apple and the things they're doing with profits that make those oil company profits seem minuscule. So if we are going, again, back to parenting, what applies to one child is going to apply to all children. That seems fair. That seems compassionate. But we're not going to pick and choose winners. That's bad for parenting. It's also bad for governing.
Y'all are bad at it.
That was my question.
No, look. When you say y'all, I'm going to explain. Congress.
That was my question. And I consider $4 billion in subsidies to oil companies to be welfare for corporations. And the same is true of the Microsoft and Apple subsidies that you speak about. But a short time ago, you were speaking about subsidies to people who receive food stamps. And you seem to be willing to put very strong rules in place for people who want to receive food stamps. But in 31 or 32 months in Congress, what have you done to deal with welfare for the corporation?
Well, first of all, I voted against the Ex-Im Bank. If you want me to be very particular and very specific, the Ex-Im Bank, very specific to answer your question. I do not think the Ex-Im Bank, look, if you can buy it, if you can finance it, then you should finance it from a private institution and not from the federal government. So to be specific to answer your question, I voted no for the Ex-Im Bank that was really, in my opinion, corporate welfare. And that's public record.
Well, is that nothing regarding the oil subsidies and the subsidies that you yourself brought up about Microsoft and Apple?
No, no.
You have the right to introduce legislation.
Well, absolutely, I do. Absolutely. And let me say this: there are only so many hours in a day. I mean, I know that I certainly, if you're not interested necessarily in hearing the pieces of legislation that I have introduced, but I think there are some wonderful pieces of legislation that really deal with my committees of oversight. You see, so my welfare, having served on Agriculture Committee and having been in the committee markup, that's an area of expertise that I'm in. I'm not on Energy and Commerce. Okay, that's another committee. And so surely you people can, and you may not know, that there are 12 committees in Congress. And so therefore the committees that I've been on, as I stated, Ag, and Transportation, and Natural Resources, much of my legislative work has been in those areas of expertise. But you're right, sir. I can introduce any bill regarding anything, but it would be outside my purview, perhaps, of my expertise, whereas food stamps, the nutrition program, was a part of my committee oversight, and so therefore I spend much more time. And by the way, I am the Republican point person for the anti-poverty initiative. So that's what look, I have been, we work with our food banks. I go to inner city DC to find organizations that are doing phenomenal work to help people through this time of transition of vulnerability into a productive life of self-sustainability and upward mobility. And so, but to explain to you, my areas of expertise are those three committees that I've been on.
Got time for one more. And they're going to keep these and respond to you if you put a little X in the box or whatever, but don't worry about it, they'll do it. Several are asking the same question, so that's pretty good. This is the last one. The ACLU has a current lawsuit against the Homeland Security about a constitutional areas, 100 miles in, whatever that means. I don't remember hearing about that. But where do you stand on protecting our property rights of the citizens of Florida, Sue Macy, and the UN Agenda 21?
Well, I've said this, and I really encourage all of you to go to our website, our congressional website, and you can just type in, in a Google search, Rep. Steve Southerland, and it'll pull it up. And if you go on there, you can find out, position on issues, and also get sign up for our e-newsletter, so that we don't want to bother you. That's not our intent. Our intent is not to fill your inbox and drive you crazy. It is a desire to keep you informed of what we're doing. That is the desire. We have done, in my Committee of Oversight of Natural Resources, we have done a series of committee hearings on, for example, talking about property rights, talking about the oceans policy. Now, the oceans policy is a broad effort that does take into consideration more of a UN mindset. And there has been not a single dollar budgeted by Congress to expand or to implement the oceans policy. And the reason I say the oceans policy is because your question talked about property rights. The number one institution that has been in vehement opposition to that has been the National Home Builders Association. Because the oceans policy, it would make you think, as so many bad initiatives do, that the wording in the title, oceans policy, just applies to oceans. That's common sense. But that's not what it does. it works as fast and as quickly inland as possible. Up riverways, waterways, estuaries. As a matter of fact, if it rains on your property and it runs as a point source to a creek that runs to a river that flows through your state and into your bay, and that bay just happens to connect to the ocean,
Then it's connected.
it then can be policed by the ocean's policy.
There you go.
So,
Includes everybody.
they understand, the home builders understand, that the threat to their livelihood and property rights, that when you buy property, you pay taxes on property, that you have protections according to our Constitution. That this policy is in fact a very threat and danger to our property rights. And our founding fathers, if you study the Federalist Papers and you go back and you read what they wrote, they were crystal clear on property rights. And so I just think that that's, I hope that answers the question. I want to thank all of you for allowing me to be here. And I will talk to you in just a few moments. Thank you very, very much for being here. And thank you. Thank you very much.